my. Y'all, that is a portal. That is a straight up portal right there. That's a straight up portal. Yep. And it is just sitting. What in the... What? That is crazy. There is a portal right there. Oh my God. In the world.
Shalom, shalom. I hope you all are doing well. I'm blessed and I'm back again with a quick video. What I'm about to share is not for entertainment or argument. It is a message that came from revelation, discernment, and time spent in the presence of Yahuwah. I don't claim to have all the answers, family, but I must speak what I've seen and what the Ruach has revealed. If this message stirs discomfort or challenges your current beliefs, I ask that you take it to Yahuwah in prayer. Not every word is for every ear, but for those who have ears to hear, may this serve as confirmation, insight, and spiritual awakening. Now let's talk about these orbs. What are these glowing lights that people are seeing across the skies? Scripture gives us clues. Like in Ezekiel chapter 1, the prophet saw wheels within wheels, full of eyes, glowing and moving in any direction without turning. These were not mechanical devices, family. They were spiritual, alive, and carried the presence of Yahuwah. This sounds strikingly familiar to the orb sightings happening today. We're going to talk more about this. In Luke 21 and Acts 2, we are told that there will be signs and wonders in the heavens before the great and terrible day of Yahuwah. Would it be so hard for you guys to consider that these orbs could be part of those signs, serving as warnings, revelations, or even protection for his people? So I want to tell you all about some information that I've kind of been sitting on, and I think it's going to be mind-blowing, and it may connect the dots for those of you who may have spiritual insight and need confirmation. Aside from the military drones, there are entities up there. And it's important to understand whether these entities are righteous or wicked. We are being watched. Nothing goes unnoticed by Yah or the enemy. Heaven observes. Demonic entities and principalities, in which we call watchers, they're also assigned by Satan to observe. The spiritual realm is not blind to our actions, prayers, struggles, or breakthroughs. This is why discernment is crucial. Some beings watch to protect, guide, or seal us, while others to accuse, imitate, or destroy. Either way, spiritual surveillance is real.
Today in broad daylight, I seen an orb floating in the sky, but apparently I was the only person that could see it, so I tried to zoom in with my camera, and this is what I caught. But you can see it pulsating and everything. It looks like it's a star, but it's broad daylight. In broad daylight, I seen an orb floating in the sky, but apparently I was the only person that could see it, so I tried to zoom in with my camera.
Did you all hear how he said, apparently I'm the only one who could see it? Spiritually, when only one person can see the orb, it's a sign of spiritual sight that has been granted. It's not physical alone. It means that person have been given eyes to see beyond the veil, a gift that not everyone around them has. Let me prove this. 2 Kings 6 and 17 says, And Elijah prayed and said, Yahuwah, I pray thee, open his eyes that he may see. And Yahuwah opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw. And behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire around about Elijah. So let me give you a little bit of context of the story behind this verse. I kind of don't like reading verses especially if it's just one verse and we don't know what the surrounding story is. So Elijah and his servant were surrounded by a Syrian army. The servant panicked, seeing only the physical threat. But Elijah told him not to fear, because those who were with them were more than those against them. Then Elijah prayed to Yahuwah, asking him to open the servant's spiritual eyes. Take notice that it was his spiritual eyes and not his physical eyes. Then the servant saw that the mountains were full of heavenly chariots of fire, an invisible army sent by Yah for their protection. So just because others can't see it doesn't mean it isn't there. Spiritual sight is a gift, and sometimes Yahuwah reveals things to only those he's preparing or calling. So when someone says, I saw the orb, but no one else did, this passage gives biblical support. Spiritual sight is selective and intentional.
Today in broad daylight, I seen an orb floating in the sky, but apparently I was the only person that could see it, so I tried to zoom in with my camera, and this is what I caught.
When one person can see these orbs while others can't, this might have been a moment of spiritual marking, testing, or revelation. Yahuwah may have opened his eyes for a reason, and whether we understood it or not, the moment was not random. These orbs may represent watchers, messengers, or unseen agents of spiritual warfare. So if only one person sees them, it could mean that they are being marked. Let's take a look at Ezekiel chapter 9 and verse 4, where it says, And Yahuwah said unto him, Go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and cry for all the abominations that were done in the midst thereof. In Ezekiel 9 and 4, Yah marks those who are grieved by sin, but the mark is spiritual and unseen. Likewise, when the man saw the orb in the broad daylight and no one else did, it may have been a sign that he was being marked or shown something in the spirit. So again, just because others can't see it doesn't mean it's not real. Yah reveals and seals in the spirit before the natural, and those who are spiritually sensitive will see what others overlook. Yahuwah often reveals supernatural things to a select few, not because others aren't present, but because only some have been given eyes to see. Matthew 13 and 16 says, But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. So someone seeing an orb or anything supernatural when others cannot is not a delusion. It may be divine revelation. It signifies discernment, calling, or being spiritually awake in a time when most are spiritually asleep. So this kind of explains why many people only see drones, but some, like myself, see something deeper. I myself see orbs that morph in and out of drones. This is more than just physical sight, it's spiritual discernment. My husband sees what appears to be natural, but I see something that is hidden, a spiritual layer beneath the surface. I've shown the video to my husband of the orb that I recorded morphing from an orb to a drone. I saw them pretty frequently at his work site as well as at home. So he says he only sees drones, but I see orbs morphing from orbs to drones. And for me, this type of behavior is very telling when the orbs remain motionless until they're noticed. Then they begin to move. To me, it strongly suggests intelligent awareness rather than random activity. So spiritually, this actually mirrors the watchers, unseen entities, whether righteous or wicked. That's the part that you guys need to understand. I'm not saying that they're all righteous, and I'm not saying that they're all wicked. So by the orb observing like this silently until interaction is triggered, in many accounts, this is what seems passive and is actually intentional surveillance. This could mean that the orb was waiting for me to perceive it as a part of spiritual awakening or testing, or it's monitoring in silence until the right moment to move, a sign of spiritual surveillance. It may not be about the physical movement, but spiritual acknowledgement. Once seen, it responds, just like Elijah's servant in 2 Kings 6 and 17 could not perceive the heavenly army until his eyes were opened. So their stillness isn't inactivity, it's deliberate presence, revealing itself only to those with eyes to see. It wasn't until I went to the window and began to record that the orbs started to move forward, like towards my window, and eventually it flew over my home, but this whole time it was morphing from drone to orb. While my husband sees this as natural, I see it as something that's hidden, a spiritual layer beneath the surface. And to me, this suggests supernatural camouflage, where what appears to be man-made is actually spiritually active. I feel like that by Yah showing me what others can't see, it's not to exalt me in any type of way, but to prepare, to warn, and confirm that I'm spiritually awake. It's also a reminder that in these last days, not everything is what it seems, and those with eyes to see will discern what's truly taking place. So it's not that people can't physically see what's going on up in the sky, they just can't discern it. With that being said, there are a lot of people seeing these lights in the sky, but few can explain it. And they are often dismissed by the mainstream as drones, weather anomalies, or camera glitches. But spiritually, they may be something much deeper. We can't be dismissive of the fact that the scriptures tell us to expect signs in the heavens and on earth as the return of Yahushua draws near. Let's read Acts 2:17 through 21. It reads, "And it shall come to pass in the last days, said Elohim, I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and daughters shall prophesy." It says sons and daughters, family, so don't let anyone tell you that the daughters of Zion will not prophesy, especially in the last days. It says, "And your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. And on my servants, and on my handmaidens," handmaidens are women, "I will pour out in those days of my spirit, and they shall prophesy." Let me just briefly tell you what a handmaiden is. It refers to a female servant or helper, often in a household setting. Spiritually, the term is sometimes used to describe a humble, devoted woman who served Yah or his people. That's a handmaiden. Let's take a look at Mary in Luke 1 and 38 real quick for an example. The mother of Yahushua. It reads, "And Mary said, Behold the handmaid of Yahuwah, be it unto me according to thy word. And the angel departed from her." So that's just a little lesson for all the men who seem to think that Paul made it a commandment that women cannot prophesy. So let's go ahead and continue. Verse 19, "And I will show wonders in the heaven above, and signs in the earth beneath, blood and fire and vapor of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood. And it shall come to pass that whosoever call on the name of Yahuwah shall be saved." So the orbs may be part of the wonders in the heavens mentioned in Acts 19, serving as supernatural signs from Yahuwah in the last days. While some see only drones, others can actually discern the orbs spiritually, suggesting that they're not just physical alone, but tied to prophecy. Like in Ezekiel 9 and 4, they may relate to spiritual markings, surveillancing, or warnings to the remnant. Their appearance is a sign that Yah's word is unfolding, and only those with spiritual eyes will truly see. From my observation, the spiritual veil is thinning, meaning the barrier between the physical and spiritual realm is becoming more transparent. More people are seeing and sensing things that once went unnoticed, like the orbs, prophetic dreams, intense spiritual warfare, and divine signs. And this is why we can't be dismissive of verses like Revelation 7 and 3, as if it might not pertain to the time we're living in now. It says, "Hurt not the earth, neither the sea nor the trees, until we have sealed the servants of Elohim in their foreheads. Some people speculate that some of these orbs are part of the lying wonders meant to test and distract. The truth is, not all orbs are evil, but not all are good either. And this is why spiritual discernment is required. Take every experience to Yahuwah in prayer and let the Ruach HaKodesh reveal what is true. Let this also be a reminder that we are being watched both by the heaven and the world. 2 Chronicles 16:9 says, "For the eyes of Yahuwah run to and fro throughout the whole earth, to show himself strong in the behalf of them whose heart is perfect toward him. Herein thou hast done foolishly, therefore from henceforth thou shalt have wars." Here's a little bit of context behind this one verse. King Asa had once trusted in Yahuwah for deliverance, but in this moment, instead of relying on Yah for help against an enemy, he made a political alliance with the king of Syria, depending on human power instead of Yah's. So the prophet Hanani tells him, Yah's eyes are always watching, seeking those who trust in him fully. If your heart is loyal, he will show himself strong on your behalf. But because you turn to man, not Yah, you have done foolishly. Therefore, from now on, you will have wars, unnecessary conflict, and instability because of your lack of faith. So this verse does describe divine surveillance. Yah's eyes searching the earth, watching for those who are loyal, obedient, and spiritually aligned. The orbs that many are seeing today may be physical manifestations of this spiritual reality. Messengers, watchers, or signs sent from Yahuwah to observe, mark, or confirm who belongs to him. Notice the combination of things. And just like Yah's eyes move across the earth, these orbs seem to do the same, appearing, hovering, vanishing, sometimes visible to only those who are spiritually awake. So in closing, I'll say what you're seeing in the skies, those orbs, are not random, and they're not all man-made drones. They are part of something spiritual, something prophetic. Yahuwah's eyes truly search the earth, and those orbs may be a physical reflection of that truth, signs, watchers, and spiritual surveillance in a time of great awakening. But understand this, the world powers do not want you to know what they are. They label them as man-made drones, satellites, or weather anomalies to keep the masses blind. And don't forget, they also call them UAPs, UFOs, and aliens. And this is damage control, because if too many people start asking the right questions, the illusion begins to crumble. These orbs are connected to the end times, and more specifically, the awakening of the true Israelites. As Yah's chosen people begin to remember who they are and return to the covenant, heaven responds. The realm of the unseen becomes more visible, not to everyone, but to those with eyes to see. So don't ignore what you're seeing. Don't be quick to brush it off. Take it to Yah in prayer. Ask for discernment, because in these final hours, he is sealing, revealing, and watching. And not everyone is supposed to see what you see. Stay awake, stay faithful, and stay holy, family. You are not crazy. You are being called. Thank you all for listening. May the Most High keep you safe in this dark hour. And remember Matthew 24:13, he that endures until the end, the same shall be saved. And until my next video, family, Shalom.